What's up, folks? Welcome to the Smoking Tire Podcast. Today is going to be a good one. The Kyza is here. Khyzyl Salim. He is an amazing concept car designer turned video game designer turned body kit designer turned complete car designer. His story is amazing. We actually tried to do a show with him when we were over there at the Goodwood Festival of Speed, but due to a technical glitch, we threw the show in the garbage because it was unlistenable from an audio perspective. But he's back here in LA with us in studio. His story is awesome, and we go all over the place from his history to some cars that really interest him, some cars that really interest me, and it's an awesome one with the Kyza. Welcome to the Smoking Tire Podcast.
Being somewhere like Goodwood and being able to do a podcast there.
Yeah, it was fun, and I hope that we get to do it again.
Yeah.
Like, it was really fun, and like, because like we know some folks. Yeah. You know, we got taken care of not just by Lotus, but around the paddock.
You get looked after.
Yeah, everybody. I had like 75 espressos that day. It was. Everyone had espressos. What was that? Was it Singer? No, it was Porsche, the Porsche guy. The fucking Porsche guy gave us the best coffee. They were pouring the Panamanian Geisha coffee, which is literally the most expensive coffee in the world. It's like it costs as much per kilo as like weed. Wow. And it was so delicious. And then they stealthily on the way out, they were pouring drinks with it, but then on the way out they gave us a little goodie bag with a fucking half key. Okay. The half key.
Okay. You don't make it sound like coffee, but
it doesn't feel like coffee.
You don't drink it.
You don't drink it.
Take it a different way.
You just grind the beans and right in.
Sniff, sniff.
Well, we are live. Welcome to the studio.
Wow.
The Do-Over Show.
The Do-Over Show.
Yeah. Tried to do a show with the Kyza at Goodwood and had technical failures. So here we have control of the situation.
Back in the hometown of the podcast, though.
Yeah. No, it's okay.
Now that I'm actually in LA.
Yeah.
And that plan worked out quite well.
It did.
Which is nice.
How are you enjoying your time here?
I love it. Every time.
Do you get here much?
It's usually surrounding SEMA, honestly, and I wish I came back more often.
Yeah.
And I think I will, starting from end of this year into next, because there's always so many people to see.
Yeah.
There's so many events happening. There's always just so many things to do.
Yeah.
And when you step outside of the UK, I realize how I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. There are many people I know in the US that I should probably be more in touch with.
Yeah.
But
I actually feel that way about the UK also.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Well,
we
I
were
guess
there
it goes
for a
both
week
ways.
and it wasn't enough time. There was a lot of people that I wanted to see there that I didn't get to. Yeah.
And whenever I've been in the US, I've done Vegas, and then I've either gone to New York or then I've done LA. But when I've done LA, it's only been for 4 days.
Oh, yeah. Not enough time.
And me being me, I'm slightly sometimes unaware of maybe who I know or events that are happening. So I go on with the mindset of like, oh yeah, I'll have 4 days in LA and it'll be super chill and, I'll just walk around and enjoy stuff. And then after seeing them, I'm like, right, so I've been invited to this.
And they're all on the other sides of the city. And you're,
yeah. And it's also my first time driving in the US this time as well.
Wow.
Like Nissan USA have very kindly provided me with a Z Performance to drive around in.
Yeah, it's a nice car, isn't it?
It's a nice car.
Yeah.
It's a nice car. Slightly terrifying to drive stick here in the US for the first time.
Oh, have you not?
I have. I mean, my first car was an RX-7 FD, which I still have and love. But
have you not driven stick in continental Europe
I've never
either?
driven. Yes. But I've never driven on American roads.
Oh, okay. Yes.
And that's slightly different because of the unpredictability of American roads.
Bad fucking quality of the tarmac, the quality of the drivers is very all over the place.
It's fun.
Yeah.
It's
like a guessing game.
It's fun. Yeah, you're like, where am I going to end up this time around?
Definitely.
Behind door number 3, we have cracked asphalt in a jump.
Yeah.
But it was, I drove from Vegas to LA, and that was a great. No, I drove the other way around. That was a good introduction to the car, and I got used to it and everything. And I asked Nissan, I was like, okay, so will I fit in this car? I'm like, oh, we don't know.
Yeah.
Just try it.
Barely, right?
I'm like, all right. And I do. I fit.
Wait,
I fit
how
quite
tall are you, real
comfortably.
quick?
It's not too bad. So I'm 198 centimeters, so 6'6".
yeah. That's fucking 99th percentile.
It depends on what trainers I wear.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Definitely.
which is insane. Like, just, it's crazy.
Yeah,
but
well,
hilarious.
I mean, look, at that height, an inch is a big, that's a big inch.
Yeah. But the car is great. It's super quick. V6 twin turbo. I love it.
Yeah, it's a
I
good
didn't
time.
expect to, but it reminds me a lot of my RX-7 as well, which I love. The only downside is visibility.
Right.
I don't know if you've sat in his
High shoulders.
Well, like through the
Well, and also
through the-
you're so tall, dude.
Yeah,
It's a different. Yeah.
I know.
If you
It's my
were 6
downfall.
inches shorter, it would be a different thing.
I'd also fit in a lot of my favorite cars.
Yeah, that's a bummer about being
Yeah,
small.
no, it is. It's,
Yeah.
it's you know.
When I
it's a
found out, the
detriment.
day I found out that it no longer matters how successful I am or how much money I can earn or how lucky I can, part of the genetic lottery I could be, I will not have an F40.
No.
And I'm like, that,
Yeah.
damn it.
Yeah. Same
But-
with the Miura for me. Like
Miura,
I'm just
yeah.
I'm like, okay.
Those are not.
I can
you
fit in
can't
one, but
believe
driving?
that
No.
car is not the worst ergonomics.
I need a
of any
steering wheel that's this big, you know? Just to actually get my knees.
Well, do you know?
under.
You must know Brian Scotto.
Of course.
So, Scott, have you seen Scotto's
We had this
Porsche?
discussion literally the day before yesterday.
Okay. He's got the tiny little steering wheel.
And it was
on
the
his
same with
Porsche.
Vin as well, because he bought an RX-7. He's like,
Right.
dude, how do you fit in this? I was like, stock seats,
Yeah.
lower seat rails,
Yeah.
and a smaller steering wheel.
Yeah.
And I fit into mine fine, like great.
Yeah.
I tried to get into his, and my leg would not go under the steering
Yeah.
wheel. So I'm
Well,
like,
that's my
okay,
problem with the
well,
F40.
You know, this is not going to work.
Yeah.
For the record, the average height in Italy right now is 5'7". Imagine back when the Miura was made, because average heights around the world have
Yeah.
increased in every country. So it's probably
That's true.
5'5". I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Brian's
true.
steering wheel is because he's 6'5", and he had his seat moved back in that 964, and then he has this little wheel, and it is very funny, but it's what you got to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I did like a small little meet thing the other day, and Brian came and turned up in his Audi, is it on RS4?
Oh yeah,
He has
yeah,
me.
yeah. RS2,
RS2. Sorry,
RS2,
I
yes,
should know
yeah.
that. His RS2. I was like, okay, so you didn't choose to, but he was like, yep, most comfortable one.
Yeah.
Fit in it, great. And then, Vin arrived in his RX-7, and Ron arrived in his Mitsubishi, his Evo.
That thing is insane.
Oh, I'm like, there's like full-on race car.
Yeah.
You know, carbon doors and everything. He just
780
rolls out of
wheel,
it, and I'm
I
like,
think.
okay.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's great.
I wish my
fantastic.
body worked well enough that I could still drive race cars around on the street and not
That's a
hate
lot
my
of,
life.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
I think it helps having a quick car here, driving though.
It does.
It's
why
you know,
electric
You can
cars
get out of the way when you
scoot.
need to,
Yeah.
unsuspectedly.
And I'm diehard motorcycle as well.
Are you really?
Yeah,
Oh.
I because the traffic is so fucked. So
Yeah.
I do motorcycles. That's
That's
how I-
terrifying to me.
It is. You got to be on your toes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And wear the gear. I'm wearing my boots, my motorcycle
Okay,
boots. Today.
good.
Yeah.
We were driving the Z the other day, and this guy just came up alongside us. He kept on looking back, and he's got his t-shirt blowing in the wind, just his helmet on, and I'm
Oh,
like,
on a bike.
dude.
Yeah.
I was terrified on his
Yeah.
behalf, and then he just went for
In
it.
the
I'm
summer,
like,
you
okay.
see these dudes who wear the vest. It
Yeah.
it almost looks like a
Yeah.
bulletproof vest, but then no shirt. And it's like, so okay, explain the thought process of how you ended up with the vest and no shirt. Like, do you not need skin?
Dude, if I flex,
Yeah,
you know, I'll just lay on the asphalt.
I guess living on the edge, but
Yeah.
you know, it's,
It's crazy. But it's nice to see you. I'm glad you made it.
Thank you for having
Thanks for
me.
making the time in your busy Los Angeles schedule.
my pleasure.
And I mean, your work. I mean, even from this past summer to now, it seems you've got a million more things going on. At least
Yeah. Even I don't even know what day it is or where I am. Honestly, most
you're in
of the
LA
time.
and it's Thursday.
And I'm here and I'm in my safe space.
But
yeah.
we have to get slightly repetitive for those of us who braved the audio on the last show for the one day it was up. But
Yeah, we do. I'm happy to do that.
Yeah. No, I mean, but you obviously have a talent for design and an eye for making things that look cool.
Thank you.
Where did that come from? In the beginning, where was your first inspiration for doing design work on these cars?
Design work came more from film. Honestly, it came more from the realm of sci-fi and cyberpunk as well. It just really captivated me. Like seeing what films like Blade Runner and I guess anime as well. Akira, Initial D and such, but seeing what they were doing in that regard. And also from a young age, I've been big into games. So, Gran Turismo, Need for Speed.
What was your first racing video game that you remember?
Gran Turismo.
Gran Turismo 1?
Yeah. Oh, it's always been Gran Turismo.
Okay.
Gran Turismo 2, and then on to 3. And that, it all just came together, and I was like, oh, wow, okay, these exist, and I've always been fascinated by cars, and my parents had always kind of supported that as well, like they'd always supported that as a hobby from a very young age. And it just developed into this love of cars and racing, and back then, British touring cars, and just being fascinated by how these machines were kind of built and put together and how they looked. But
did you like the racing versions of the street cars more than the F1 cars in the single series?
Yes. F1 for me was, even now, almost in a way, it's very, not repetitive, but it's not it's more relatable. The touring cars were more relatable, right?
Definitely.
You had this Ford Sierras and your E30s and 190s.
Yeah.
And the field
then the
looked
British side
different.
as well.
Right now, the F1, I know there's differences, subtle differences in the F1 cars, but they look basically
if you took the colors off of the F1 cars and painted all of them the same color, good fucking luck telling the difference.
Exactly. But that's kind of, that's where my interest really started to grow in terms of art in general, and sketching and graphic design, and it all merged together into one until I was like, oh, okay, cars are the one thing that I seem to be very passionate about.
Did you have any natural talent when it came to drawing, or is it all practice?
A little bit of both. Because a lot of artists, they sketch things beforehand, and I went through a period where I'd sketch everything, but without using reference, so I just do it from what I imagined. But I still had to learn the basics for the kind of work that I wanted to get into. So kind of during towards the end of primary school into secondary school or high school, I'm like, okay, how can I direct myself into a kind of career that works for me here? So I'm like, right, learn the fundamentals of art, so learn shading, learn how light works and reacts to things, learn about perspective, learn about human anatomy as well. So it wasn't just cars then, it was kind of everything. Mm-hmm. It was I was like, oh, there's this thing that digital painting, called digital painting that exists. How can I get into that? So it's kind of split into sections. So say during secondary school, I was very scientifically based then, as in my studies. That's what I wanted to go into, and that's where I was kind of heading towards. I studied biology, I studied chemistry, a bit of graphic design and IT. And that's where I was like, okay, yeah, cool. That's, might explore that as a career option. But I'd go home and I'd just draw. Or I'd use Photoshop and I'd mess with cars, I'd lower them, I'd take parts from other cars or race cars and fit them to cars that we all love, and I'd paint on top of them and make them look like something new and unique in my own kind of style.
Yeah.
And that kind of grew into this thing.
Did you take classes in Photoshop
no,
and stuff?
No.
Was
all
it online tutorials or just press buttons and see what
just
they
literally press buttons and see what happens.
There are a lot of buttons.
There's a lot of
There are a lot of
Photoshop.
buttons. Yeah,
Photoshop is a very hard program to teach yourself. It is.
There are a lot of buttons, but
Yeah.
back then, there were tutorials around, but nothing
Yeah.
really specific to what I wanted to do. So it was just a case of practice
Yeah.
and have a play around with stuff, But I started to the more I explored the internet, I discovered sites like DeviantArt, and you had ArtStation, which came a lot later on, but there were also like car modification pages. And that kind of resonated with me. I was like, damn, that's awesome to see, people go from traditional into digital and just adapt their own style to things. And I'm like, so this thing called concept art exists, or a concept artist. I was like, what is that? And I had some of my favorite artists that were very much into digital painting. To name one, Daniel Levisi. He started his own IP called The Last Man Standing. And he built this whole series of characters, this whole story, this huge graphic novel, and it was crazy to me that someone had basically created their own world.
Yeah.
They'd created their own world, and it was just, it was just fascinating to me. This was, he'd painted all of these using his graphics tablet. He had a very good understanding of kind of detail and
this is digital painting?
This is all digital painting. This was all done in Photoshop. He'd painted, via a tablet, but he had drawings, he could draw.
Yeah.
And it really caught my attention because I'm like, damn, this is kind of the cyberpunk futuristic stuff that I really love to see.
Yeah.
And I remember, so LMS, he created a graphic novel, and he let artists do their own interpretations of one of the characters in his story. And I was like, right, okay, I need to get to that level where I can kind of create artwork that looks like it would exist in this world.
Okay.
So that's where the anatomy and understanding of perspective and shading kind of came into play, because I'm like, I need to learn this in order to do this. So
because you wanted to make things look, let's say, realistic.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I'd use this as an end goal, like, right, okay, now I have a reason to create this thing. Now I have to push myself in order to get to that level.
Sure.
So I don't know if you can go to my ArtStation on here, where I have very, very old work, but you'll kind of see the development from some environmental design, some characters, into then slowly cars. So I went through a few different stages of progression, and that was mainly surrounding studying. So if you scroll right to the bottom,
It's going to take like 30 years to get.
It might take 30 years.
Oh no,
but,
there we go.
Okay, there we go.
So here we go. So I see some like mystical type characters.
Yeah, so it was very explorative, you know, like very dark. I liked the very atmospheric kind of look, and like all this is fully painted based off some of my favorite artists at the time, and this was posted 10 years ago.
If you're starting from a learning perspective, is it easier to make dark and gloomy stuff than it is to make bright and sunny? Guys, got to take a quick break from the action for today's sponsor, BetterHelp. I love BetterHelp. They have been a great supporter of our show, and they help you folks with something that is important. Talk therapy is important. Whether you see a therapist in person, virtually, or over the phone, it can help you work out a bunch of stuff. Whether it's actual disorders like depression or anxiety or worse, or whether you're just having a hard time with the stressful world around you, talk therapy can really help. And what's really hard about it is finding a new therapist if you don't already have one, and BetterHelp is here to help. All you have to do is go to betterhelp.com/smokingtire, fill out their questionnaire. It's entirely online, right? And they'll match you with a licensed therapist. They've got thousands on staff. You can then meet with that therapist on video chat, phone chat, text message chat, at your convenience, at your schedule. It's great, right? You can have it work for you. And if that particular therapist isn't working out, which is totally okay, it happens, they'll get you switched at any time for no additional charge. I've been seeing my therapist for a very long time, but if I didn't have him, I wouldn't know where to start and to find a good therapist now. And so BetterHelp is exactly where I would go, no matter where I was in the country, because it works on your time. So find your bright spot this season with BetterHelp. Go to BetterHelp.com/smokingtire today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp.com/smokingtire today to get 10% off your first month with BetterHelp. Folks, we are also brought to you today by Game Time. Game Time eases the stress, eases the headache, and eases the strain on your wallet when you're buying tickets to your next big event. Game Time is fast and easy. It's the best way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. There's killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from the seat, and their best price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Whether it's comedy or theater, music, sports, Game Time can help. Because you can check that view from your seat so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. They've got all-in pricing that shows the total up front, so you know you're going to get a great deal before you check out, and you can buy tickets in just seconds with 2 taps. They've got tickets, deals right up until the start of the event, and even up to an hour after the event starts. It is the place to find last-minute seats. You can find exclusive flash deals and sponsored deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. And with zone deals, you can pick the section, and Game Time picks the seats for big-time savings. And the Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. You can download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code SMOKINGTIRE for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but create an account and redeem code SMOKINGTIRE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets at the lowest price guaranteed. I mean, I'm not saying that you're going for easier.
A lot of stuff it's easier to hide a lot of stuff.
That's what I was saying. Yeah.
But this artwork reflected the artist that I followed
cool.
at that time.
I like that one. That's nice.
You know, it was very. I think personally as well, it was like my artwork goes hand in hand with, I guess, the evolution of, you know, the emotions that you go through, especially from a young age, and dealing with a lot of stuff like that was kind of my art was my escape. But I'd kind of started with this. So if you go to
then the next couple rows up, it's sort of a similar moods, but now it's got a skyline in it.
So the one to the left.
Yeah.
So this is what I created for Danny Levisi's graphic novel based off his character called Lucy. And this was my first kind of full piece drawn from scratch that I'd painted that matched his style well. And it got featured in his book, and it was just the best thing ever.
Yeah, of course.
I was like, holy crap. And I still have it to this day, you know, like it was one of those things where I'm like, damn, okay. So if I do put my mind towards something, I can kind of achieve what I want to.
Yeah.
But the problem for me was, I guess, it might be ADHD related, I don't know, but small attention span. I'm like, what can I do to keep myself interested in continuing to learn digital art and to get better and to evolve? And I needed to choose a subject that for me kept me engaged. I'm like, what am I passionate about? Cars.
Sure.
Why don't I try some cars? And then you can start to kind of see my progression into the 2D world of cars and these. So
I left. So now there's sort of some like steampunky supercars.
I was very inspired. You know, Mad Max, Blade Runner, merging those worlds together. What would that look like with cars that we love and that we just enjoy, you know? And the whole premise was for cars not to be stuck in a museum.
Right.
It's like imagining. I don't like to imagine necessarily a post-apocalyptic world because, you know, I mean, that's not a world I think any of us want to live in. But it was very much what would the future look like with these cars if they're not stuck in museums? You know, like what's happening
If
with
an
fuel,
LFA
like
was
everything.
treated like a 240.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, if they weren't so precious. But there was a lot more kind of storytelling around this as well, and I really enjoyed that aspect of it. I would create cars in my lunch break, for example, just to get an idea out. And I'd create a character to go along with that car. It's like, what's the backstory there? Why does this car look the way it does? And for me, I enjoyed doing that so much. I kept on building it. And I did that to a point where...
Would you ask like your friends or other people to like create a character for you that you could then make a car for?
I did some collaborations, which I think there is one of them on here as well.
That one is just a Viper with the clamshell hood
That one
removed.
is a Viper. Yeah, it is.
Which is okay, but
it's if you scroll down, sorry for making you endlessly scroll. So if you scroll up,
I like that yellow Ferrari
little
512 in the middle there. That's pretty cool.
honestly, I forgot about some of these.
That 512 is bitchin'. I'll
so
fuck with that.
Top left, you'll see the FCRX7. Yeah, that one. So
Well, this one has a driver.
Yes. So I collaborated with an artist here. I really loved his style. I was like, hey, it was like, design a character and I'll design a car to go with it. Bear in mind, this was 9 years ago. But it was very much inspired by the kind of ratty kind of, you know, drift missile type.
Yeah.
Yeah,
coolant hoses coming out.
Yeah, exactly. You know,
Yeah,
but
fun.
also very Japanese inspired.
Definitely.
Which I owe a lot to Japan for basically shaping my style of design with cars. But this was all basically whilst I was still in secondary school. So I'm like, okay, you know, the work started to get attention. I did a Back to the Future rendition of the DeLorean, but with a Pantera instead. I did Tommaso Pantera, which I think is one of my most popular and well-known pieces.
That would be
top right.
That would be if Doc Brown had actual money. Oh, that looks good.
Yeah.
That looks good.
But this is probably my most stolen piece for Prince.
Oh,
You'll
really?
probably find it.
Yeah, Back to
everywhere.
the Future nerds cannot be stopped.
Yeah. No. But
I like that it's got what looks like an airless tire in the back. Yeah, you've gone with the airless tire concept.
I loved that.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. And this got the attention of Top Gear and Jalopnik at the time and Kotaku and stuff like that. And kind of...
Zach, go back. Is there another angle? Do we have a front angle of this? This is the only angle?
So because this was 2D,
okay.
This is all I was doing at that time. It was all just Photoshop and 2D work, which then leads me into the 3D stuff.
Wow.
But from doing this stuff here...
I have to say, in that Michael J. Fox is a small person.
He
but in that
is,
angle,
yeah.
In that angle, he's a little...
No.
Because a Pantera is a very small car.
Now imagine me looking back at this and I'm like, oh my God, what was I going through
It
then,
looks... The Pantera looks like a bit of a school bus compared to...
yeah, it really does.
I
And
mean,
then if you go left...
piece, but like...
If you go left, there's one with Doc Martin and a McLaren F1.
Doc Brown.
Doc Brown.
Doc Martin, I believe, is a boot.
That's a boot.
That's a boot. The McLaren is interesting. In this photo, I think Christopher Lloyd is just surprised that he had enough money to afford this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this was a lot of fun. Like
It does look cool.
I loved making stuff like this.
Not sure how the door opens, but we'll
we don't
ignore
talk about
that.
We don't talk about that. We don't talk about those things. Again, 9 years ago.
Yeah,
Who knew what I was doing?
Yeah.
But doing this stuff for me, again, as with everything, even now, it was just fun to create.
For sure, yeah.
You know, and it's so silly, and I didn't ever have to worry about it being real because I'm like, it's just a fun piece of art.
Yeah.
But doing this stuff, I do them frequently. I do them, you know, almost every day because at that time I left college after my first year. Typically in the UK, college is 2 years. And my parents were like, you really like graphic design. Why don't you try and go and get a job in graphic design? You know, they were always very supportive of the art side of stuff. I was like, are you sure? And they're like, yep. So I lived in Manchester in the UK at the time. That's where I'm from. And I just looked at digital design agencies and saw any job openings that they had. And there was one for a junior graphic designer. And I was 17, 18 at the time. So I applied for that. I got the job. And I started working at a design agency.
What were they having you make?
Okay, so first year, it was awesome because I was making big like billboards. I was making flyers, logos, branding and stuff like that. And I loved it. Then it became kind of very repetitive, but in a non-creative way. It didn't require any creativity from you because clients kept on changing, like I ended up designing like protein supplement labels and stuff like that, and then brochures. And I'm like, this isn't what I want to do.
Yeah. After college, I got a graphic design job, and I was making food labels.
Yeah.
And after about 3 months, I wanted to fucking blow my brains out. It was terrible.
So
I didn't have your creativity, and I was still that bored.
That's how I felt. And I'm like, I can't. Yeah. The problem was, though, is that I wasn't good enough from an artistic standpoint to move into anything else that I wanted to do. And that may have been game related or film, but actually becoming a concept artist for games or for film. So I had to spend 4 years basically, again, trying to find and develop my own style, which is why you see this stuff. And I would do these on my lunch break and I'd finish them off at home.
How long would it take you to do something like this Doc Brown McLaren F1
I would have
thing?
done this in a day. This would have been done in probably like 8 hours.
So did you start with a photo of a dark parking lot, start with a photo of a McLaren F1?
So they were, everything in this photo is all separate.
Right.
So I'd start with a photo of McLaren F1. I'd find a backplate, or I'd even take backplates myself. Cut the McLaren F1 out, repaint stuff on top, take out parts from other cars, mesh them together, finding images that were of the same perspective. So it was like, I had a huge reference folder of images.
Divided by angle, front 3/4.
Some vacuums.
And that was how I used to work. That's, that was the way, that was the method that I had kind of learned. And after doing this, my 4th year at the graphic design agency, I got an email from an art director at EA Games.
Wait, so you were at this job that was driving you
insane
for 4 years though. You stuck it out.
Yeah, 4 years. Basically, the last 2 years is when I really started to kind of put effort into the car side of things.
Yeah,
and it was the only way I could kind of escape and move on.
So how did EA Games find you?
From my art station.
Oh, yeah.
From this kind of work. Maybe not necessarily the cyberpunk type stuff, but a lot of the modified car stuff.
Yeah.
And the email went to my spam folder, and I'm like, this isn't real, like I'm just going to leave it. But my boss at the design agency was like, you should probably respond back to that. Like, okay.
That's pretty cool.
What's the worst thing that happens? They steal your social security number?
They
take your identity?
So I did that, and I had a call with the current art director, or the guy that was the art director on Need for Speed 2015 at the time. He's like, hey, we've seen your work on ArtStation. We're based in Guildford, which is down south in the UK, and we're working on the next Need for Speed game. And I was like, oh, damn, okay. Okay. They were like, we'd like to send you an art test. I was like, okay. They're like, can you design a stadium for us, a stadium environment that cars will come and hang out at, and kind of, it'll become a hangout place. It's like, yeah, sure, I can do that. So I think like 2 weeks later,
meaning they were hanging out in the parking lot of a stadium.
Yeah, stadium was in the background, and the cars are kind of all gathered, like a huge meet. It's like a huge car meet
at a stadium.
A bit like Alt Race at the moment, if you were to see that today. So I did that, and they loved it, and that stadium ended up being designed and put into the game, and they were like, right, so when can you move? And I'm like, what? They're like, yeah, like when can you move? And I didn't go to university. I'd always lived at home at that time, so that was kind of all in one. It was like moving away from home. It was like a university experience. It was just, there was a lot. I was like going to work at EA on Need for Speed. So I did it, and I don't think I would ever look back. Honestly, like it was the best thing I could have done. And I remember asking Alit, who was the art director there at the time, I was like, so what's my role here? He was like, oh, you're going to be an environment artist. I was like, right. You've seen my portfolio, right? Because it was just cars. And they're like, we want to challenge you. So we're going to give you environments to do. I was like, okay, cool. Happy to try that out. And the very first task that they gave me was to design the outdoor area of the player's garage in Need for Speed 2015, which I did. And
that is, again, I don't remember that game offhand. Is it a static thing, or
so
is
that was kind of their? It was like their rebrand of Need for Speed. It was the dark and gritty kind of like underground kind of vibes, but it had Magnus Walker, it had Nakai-san from RWB, it had heavy hitters within the car scene. But I joined quite late on. They were already done with development on the game and such like that. So it was mainly just basically creating visuals for what locations would look like in terms of lighting, like working with the lighting team, figuring out how certain districts look, how they're going to kind of be presented. And then they also let me do some body kits as well, which was a lot of fun. But that was my first kind of experience and introduction into the game industry.
Did the work on environments help your skills with car design in any way?
Guys, we got to take just one more quick break from the show for Crowd Health. You know what sucks about health insurance? Everything. I have some of the best health insurance that I can purchase from my company because I have a small business. Not every option is open to me like if you worked for a big company. But my small company, I wanted the best insurance I could get for myself and for my employees. And you know what? It still sucks. It's confusing, it's expensive, it's frustrating. Claims get rejected all the time, sometimes for stupid reasons. Sometimes a claim that went through last month gets rejected this month, and then I got to go deal with it on the phone, or my wife has to deal with it, spend 2 hours on the phone with customer service. Oh, the code is wrong. Oh, this is wrong. Did you know that 48 million claims on Obamacare last year were denied? Health insurance is annoying, but there is a better way. Welcome to the alternative. It's Crowd Health. Crowd Health was created to get rid of the headaches of health insurance. It's crowd-funded health care. For $175 for an individual or $575 for a family of 4 or more, you'll get access to a community of people who are willing to help out in the event of an emergency. You'll also get telemedicine visits, discounted prescriptions, and more. All this without doctor networks getting in the way. Let Crowd Health help with your healthcare needs. You can get started today for just $99 a month for the first 3 months if you use code TIRE to get the healthcare you deserve. Crowd Health is not insurance. Learn more at joincrowdhealth.com. That's joincrowdhealth.com and use code TIRE. We're also brought to you today by Prize Picks. It's the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. We're the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's just you against the numbers. Instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks, you just pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. It's easy. I don't know anything about sports. I'm bad at sports. That's why I need easy. Even I can pick more than or less than, right? Prize Picks shows you the stat projections and you go, I think they're going to do better than that. I think they're going to do worse than that. It's really not hard. Prize Picks is the most fun I've had, winning up to 25 times my money this football season, and now I can play during basketball season too. Just select 2 or more players, pick more than or less than on their projected stats and place your entry. It's easy. PrizePicks even offers a reboot policy so your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. For football and basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half, does not return in the second, that player is rebooted. PrizePicks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. It's easy to sign up. It's easy to pick your numbers. It is easy to get money back. It's quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types. That makes PrizePicks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. So go to prizepicks.com/tire and use code TIRE for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/tire and use code TIRE for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks is daily fantasy sports made easy, and now back to the show.
Did the work on environments help your skills with car design in any way?
Not with car design, no, but it helped in terms of presenting cars, which I didn't, again, it was one of those things that it was completely different and new for me, but I enjoyed the process. But in order to make that process quicker and simpler, I had to learn 3D design. And I'd been putting that off for so long because I'm like, oh, I have to relearn software, I have to learn something new, and I have to start again. And I guess people listening here that are artists, they will understand, right? When you're proficient in a soft piece of software, you don't necessarily want to have to spend time to learn something new.
Yeah.
But honestly, it's the best thing that you can do
Yeah.
because you're just increasing your skill level, you're learning new things, new techniques, that you might not necessarily have.
And software
thought
never
before.
moves backwards, right?
No,
so if you,
exactly. It's
you
always
really
evolving.
pigeonhole yourself if
always
you aren't
developing. So I
just updated fucking Illustrator, and all I'm doing is making a flyer for the shop, and damn, am I out of water.
I don't envy you.
I am out of water. There's a lot of new buttons.
YouTube is very, very helpful now.
I know.
I use it for the
But
Photoshop
I had a
stuff all
long
the time.
couple of hours yesterday trying to get this fucking thing done.
Illustrator was my worst enemy. Logos became my worst enemy. I'm
Yeah.
like, get me away from it. Don't let me look at a logo. But yeah, EA was it was a big thing. It was a big moment, and it helped me develop a lot. Honestly, the people there were amazing. There was so much help available. I think just after my first 2 years working at EA, I then started to learn 3D design, and I had the help of the team around me to kind of get used to the software and the transition, and it really helped my job as a concept artist quickly populate environments and landscapes. I could block things out very quickly and then just overpaint on top. And I could also then add in 3D car models, and it was great. If you scroll down here, I might have a piece of concept art that I did do initially for Need for Speed Payback, which I think is one we don't really talk about, but it's fine. Is it here? Oh, sorry, I've also made a lot of
Yeah, you
artwork.
have. There is a lot going on.
Okay, scroll up. Slowly. Keep going. Bit more.
This is great for the listening audience.
I apologize to the listening audience. But yeah, it was a big deal because it had a helicopter in it, and it had kind of a car jumping out of the back of a truck. And it was there was so much action happening.
So you drew
right
Fast
there,
it
car
is,
jumping
right in the
out of
middle.
back of a
Yeah.
truck.
You drew
So-
Fast and Furious before Fast and Furious.
Pretty much.
That is a
So this-
Koenigsegg jumping out of a truck.
So this was actually a good example of the type of concept art that I created at Need for Speed, and this was within the second year. And this is 3D with overpainting done. So this gave designers for the game a good indication as to what cinematic sequences in the game would look like, or what they need to look like in terms of lighting. What's the sky going to look like?
So this is like the game version of storyboarding.
Pretty
almost.
much, yeah, pretty much. Like if you scroll down, you'll see like that there were also, just scroll down that in that page.
Oh, in this, okay.
Yeah.
we're just learning how this.
I'm learning how this
just
website
just
works.
learning how it works.
So that looks that looks kind of like Willow Springs, actually.
It does. It does.
Yeah, that's the
Helicopter, and
So it's like a highway, with a helicopter kind of kicking up dust. Like what do the effects look like? What does it look like if the car's just kind of put on its handbrake or whatever,
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun. It really pushed me out of my comfort zone. But alongside doing this, I'm like, it'd be really cool if some of these cars I'm designing were real.
Yeah.
And that's where Eric and LTO came into the fold. And this was kind of around 2017 at that time. So 3 years into working at EA, I get a DM on Instagram from my now business partner. He was like, hey, I love your work. He's like, do you want to make it real? I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, let's do it.
So what are some of the? Digital art it's one thing, and you have to your Instagram. The renders look like they could be real.
Yeah.
But those panels that you're making and those body kits don't necessarily have to fit on real cars.
Yeah.
Right.
So there was a big learning curve that I kind of had to go through, where you're almost leaving the fantastical behind and into the real world.
Yeah.
So during this transition, I worked on the very first initial renders of Ken Block's F-150.
Mm-hmm.
And doing projects like that, I was just learning 3D. So it was my first time working with Matt Tisillo, and when he worked with Hoonigan, and that was a real switch up, because I'm like, oh, okay, now I have to think about the functionality of these things.
Steering angle and suspension travel.
Yeah, and I wasn't really sure as to what Gymkhana was back then.
Yeah.
So, that then went on to other artists through different stages, which was awesome to see that process. But then at this time, I was still doing stuff for some games and some films as well. And it was there was just a lot of learning to have been done. But basically, we set out to have our first body kit made and developed in the US.
Which was the first one?
Which was a BMW E30 body kit. And in 2018, myself and Eric, we had our first prototype made, and we launched it at SEMA in Vegas. That was my first time in America.
Was it totally handmade?
So we went through the traditional kind of body kit process. It went from the design, then into CAD, and then from CAD it went into CNC mold, like CNC kind of.
It's like foam.
It was all done in carbon, actually. So that was like properly CNC'd, and then molds were made, and then carbon parts were pulled. And this was our first prototype car that we launched at SEMA, which really helped to kind of launch the company. And more importantly, it showed me that this is something that is worth pursuing, and this thing can happen.
Was the E30 a good choice because of how you could make? Okay, so
it was fully a passionate kind of passion car and project. Me and Eric were like, what car do we love that we can both work on, that we can both that we'd love to see real?
And what does he do?
Eric is he is basically, his background is sales. Sales and kind of more business related stuff. So I'm like design, and he was always sales and business, and he dealt with kind of customers and such.
I mean, by your standards, this E30 kit, dare I say, is fairly mild looking.
Fairly mild, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Why was that? Why didn't you come out swinging with some crazy shit? Because you wanted it to be something people might actually buy?
Having people buy it, yes. But also it worked well for what I wanted to achieve with that car. It was very much the inspirations behind it was Group 5, BMW M3, more accentuated. And we switched up this body kit and made it wider after we did this prototype. But this was my first time in America. It was my first time in Vegas. It was my first time ever having a car that actually had one of my own body kits that we'd produced on it. And the very first day the car rolled off the truck, Larry Chen then messaged me. He's like, "Hey, let's do a shoot." I'm like, okay, cool. Just, someone I've idolized for many, many years and known. And he took us to a spot just outside of Vegas before that spot blew up.
I remember these pictures.
And
I do.
During sunset, he's doing a video of this car walk around and the sun setting and the lights start to come on. Like the city in the background is incredible. And I just have a moment to myself. I'm just like, how am I here? How am I in this situation? How is this even real? And from that point on, it gave me a lot of motivation, I think, to just make what you want to make. Because, if people like it, they'll want it.
Yeah.
If they don't, they don't. And that's fine. But it was a really, really special moment. We did shoot a Rotiform and a lot of different people. I met a lot of people that they were like, it's crazy to see how you went from renders to now having your own kind of company that is producing your body kits. I'm not a YouTuber. It's quite difficult for me to communicate and video and even just with people sometimes. I'm quite introverted. I like to be at home by myself, just working, headphones on, world off. So there was a lot of learning to be done there. But it set me up in a way where I'm like, okay, this is something that I can do if I
Yeah, but that's
really try.
That's okay if you're. I mean, look at Nakai.
Yeah,
like that dude just likes to cut metal and smoke 10,000 cigarettes.
He does.
He's not trying to. He's not trying to hang out.
No,
that guy.
No, exactly.
That guy's head down always.
Exactly. But then there's the whole mental side of it, right? And social media and getting drawn into a world that you don't necessarily want to be drawn into. The moment you start to get a following from stuff, or you start to get known for something, you then have to start watching what you say. You have there's whole other aspects.
I never learned
to it.
that.
You don't. Yeah, for you, like when I worked at EA, and people would say stuff, they're like, "You have to respond professionally." I'm like, "Fine, I will," and I can be very sassy as well.
Sure.
So I had to hold back on that, and
the English, they can turn the screws. You can have a cutting, a professional response to something.
Yeah, that's one word.
This car's got to be in the right light. This E30. If you were to start over and do this again, would you have made it black? I think black hides it a little bit, actually.
It does. If I had my own way, I would have made it white with no sponsors on it whatsoever.
It's like your 36, which we can get
exactly.
to.
But yeah, so it was a very monumental thing.
It's a cool looking car, though. I mean, it does. Did it have a?
It was just a lot of fun, but it was also the first kit that ever had like fins in it. Which now you see on body kits. Like I was like, what can I do that can distinguish LTO kits from other body kits?
You mean the little bits outside of the headlights?
Like having little 3 fins on the side. They usually mimic the body lines and from the back of the fender and rear fenders as well, and that kind of translated to the E36 kit that we have. And it was just a fun, like this was an incredible. This was just
that location.
It was just magic,
It's a great shot.
Yeah, Larry knows what he's doing.
Larry knows what he's doing. That's a good fucking shot right there.
Yeah, you have the vents on the back. I've seen that on some
go
of the
to
other
Larry.
cars,
Can you
too.
buy prints of this from Larry? Go buy a print from Larry.
So. This is
Can't you buy
photo.com.
Can you buy a print from anything he's ever done? I think you can, right? Yeah. Go to LarryChenPhoto.com.
I mean, I'm going to his after this, so I can just ask. Be like, hey, Larry, you need to re-upload some of those pictures.
I'm sure. I think you can.
These are on LarryPhoto.com.
I think you can. I think because people who listen to our show go and buy shit from his website.
Yeah.
Cool.
But this was so this was one of the first. And looking back, I do think many things differently. But that's how we evolve.
Yeah.
But I had to learn and adapt to how to design for the real world.
Yeah.
And even now, if you look at the kind of art that I'm creating now, it's drastically changed and developed from the then more fantastical.
Let's go to Zach. Let's go to today. Let's go to
from more the
the
fantastical
Instagram and let's
kind
see
of
what
designs.
today. What does today hold? I like this. I saw the 2-door 190 and I was like, oh yes,
Yeah.
I like the 2-door
Yeah.
190 very much.
These kinds of cars are my favorite to make. I love the kind of resto mod.
The resto mod,
I love-
DTM style
Yeah,
meets
I just
Japanese.
I love modernizing old cars.
Yeah.
I love it, and I always have in a way. It's just, it makes me happy, you know, because I say time and time again, everything that I put on my Instagram it's my sketchbook.
Yeah.
You know, like I post and I hope it inspires people.
Everyone who actually builds one of these, it
it's-
turns into a complete fucking nightmare. Though I hear they're
Yes.
the worst cars
Yes.
on the
Yes.
planet to try and do builds on.
Yeah.
They're terrible.
Exactly. But for me, you know, people are like, why don't you do this car? Why don't you do that car? And I have to be invested in that car for me to even to even look at it. You know, otherwise, if I can't do something that I'm into or I'm invested in, then I'm
Yeah.
not going to create anything that I enjoy.
This one is
Which
really
is,
cool. Though.
It's
It looks
why
great.
it's, you know, it's one of my favorites to make. Honestly, this was a little series I did with Haggerty. But this has some exciting stuff behind it as well, which will be next year. But we won't talk about that. But yeah, so this is just one example. You know, I would really love to dip back into the more creative, fantastical cars that can't necessarily be created in the real world, because
Yeah.
for me, it's just a release of
Well, do you
creativity.
have people who are approaching you that have money, no object, and they want something fantastical, and they're willing to pay to get it, even if it's beyond ridiculous?
Now, yes,
Yeah.
which is awesome in itself.
Oh, that 928 is fucking bitchin'. I really like
That's
that
it's-
928. It's great. Talk about a car. Another car it's a fucking nightmare to do a build on.
Yep.
Nobody wants to do a
Yep.
build on a 928, but that
No.
looks
But
pretty
in the virtual
cool.
world,
you.
it's
that
perfect,
looks pretty
Yeah.
cool.
There's no oil leaks on the computer.
This is what I'm like, though. I'm like, oh man, I really love the 993 GT2 Evo.
Yeah.
928 exists.
Yeah.
What would that look like together? And then
Yeah.
this is what happens. And then I'm like, all right, how can I go about making this real now? So this will probably, I'm pushing to get this made.
I've been thinking about doing another fucking Fox body because I have car ADD too. So maybe you can do a little something.
I
something
haven't
for
done a
me.
Fox Buddy yet.
I think maybe it's time.
Maybe it's time.
Maybe it's time.
Okay.
Because
All right.
I keep getting tagged in pictures of my old one. Did you ever see that car? Oh, you never saw it?
No, I don't think so.
Zach, show him my.
Or maybe I'll see it and I'll be like,
You might have remembered it. Yeah, this is it. And it
Okay.
has it was a notchback
Didn't know
with,
you were-
with over fenders and
God damn.
underneath it's a 1988 body, but it was a 2003 Cobra underneath, and the entire chassis was 8 inches wider. So it has independent rear suspension and it has all this other stuff, and so you know it's pretty straight. That's the angle right there, but we could do better.
We can do better.
But that's a good start.
That's boiling though.
It's a cool car,
Yeah.
isn't it? And
Yeah.
I sold it a few years ago in the great downsizing when I ran out of space for my cars and I had to get rid of it.
I love
but,
it.
But we could start over and we
could
could do
start.
a little something
Yeah,
with
absolutely.
another Fox body.
I
that
love
could
them.
be-
I love cars from that era, you know.
Yeah.
Just kind of.
Well, and you can do a DTM thing with this body
Mm-hmm.
style. And what I love the most about these cars is that they're muscle cars, but they're small.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that is a big, a very important thing is that they sound like muscle
It's
cars.
so true.
But they can handle.
So true.
Yeah.
It's
So maybe
But
we'll,
thi-
maybe
this
we'll
is
do
what
a
I love
something.
about builds,
2024. Maybe it's Fox Body Part 2.
maybe.
You go
I'm
back
down
to it.
I'm down.
I kind of thought about maybe doing a convertible. California cruising.
I don't know how
It's not a
people
great
will
idea,
feel
but
about that.
but
No.
the
That'll be
notchback. This
interesting.
version is the one.
It's a sick looking car.
Yeah, rad. So okay, let's go back to what is LTO selling? I love my sweater.
Okay, so
what is LTO selling right now? What's the
LTO
new shit? We've got the E30 convertible.
E30. The E30 convertible. We got the E30 sedan
So you're not
as
above.
well.
You're not above convertibles.
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
You know, I
The
don't mind a
E36
convertible.
kit looks awesome. I love the E36
Thank
kit.
you.
That's a great looking.
It's a very much love or hate thing, I think, because the reason why I love these kits is because it's open for your own interpretation. You know, like this red one that we had, this launched at SEMA in last year, along with the V12 RX-7 body kit as well, and like it's fully molded and blended, so it showcases to people what you can do with this kit.
Yeah.
And it was very much inspired by kind of the E36, you know, a GTR variant, using the body lines of the original E36 and accentuating them a lot more. And it's just fun. You know, it's fun. People either love it or they hate it.
So not that it is your responsibility, because you're an aesthetic person, right? But when one widens a car and you don't really fuck with the suspension, you just put deep offset wheels on the car.
Yes.
The result is typically something that drives like straight trash.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you're doing these kits, are you bothering to work with any suspension companies to make a secondary kit that will make the resulting car drive right?
So that's why, like, on that, usually it's up to what the owner wants to do with their car and how they build it, right?
But you at least want,
they can.
Yeah.
We'd offer suggestions of what they should do, or kind of if they want to run air, what kind of tire sizing they need, wheel sizing, and everything like that. But it's always been it's up to you how you do this. If they want the car to work and function, they'll do that.
Yeah. Like BBI Autosport has what they call a pre-RWB kit that changes the length of all the control arms and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And with my Fox body, it's not as wide as what you're doing, but the chassis was wider. Yeah. So we put the body around the chassis and not, we didn't widen the wheels to meet the body.
Up till this point, I'm not business minded at all. I'm just like, I just want to create art.
Sure.
We hadn't really considered, there are so many things you have to consider beyond the realm that you're in. And like within the last 2 years, we've started speaking with companies that will partner with us on very specific things for these cars and these kits so that they function. The whole idea behind these is that these ones in particular were built as art cars because you have to know what you're designing before you design it, right? What's the purpose of this kit and how is it going to perform? So with the E30 and with the E36 and with the RX-7, they were created and designed in mind as being art pieces.
Right.
But that doesn't mean...
Do you want to do race cars?
Yes.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that they won't function. And then you have people like Guichi Motorsports and Rebellion Forge Racing who, like, say in 2019, they built a 8-to-1 header green E30 kit that was static. It was set to go on a racetrack and perform. And that was kind of... Again, it's an example of how people can build these cars to work how they want them to work. If they want to start racing stuff, they can. Same with the RX-7 and the V12 one. It didn't run due to things out of the country's
I remember
control.
this green thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember this thing. This thing was bad shit.
We were driving this around Vegas, getting rollers and everything, and it was insane to drive here
8-to-1,
and everything.
I remember that.
So
what motor was it? Was it a BMW V8? It wasn't, was it? Was it an LS motor or something?
It was an LS.
Yeah.
It was an LS. But
it's a great looking little car, though.
This game,
I like this car.
This was an example of how wild and crazy you can go and get this car to perform with this kit.
Why can't the exhaust just go out the front?
Why not? How can I make this even more inconvenient?
So much heat extraction.
Yeah.
It's good.
But cars like this, I think, helped us a lot. Just showcase the potential of if you get this kit, you can achieve something like this. And it's same with the RX-7. This was a crazy concept. These guys finished SEMA last year, and they had to put it on hold because they were building the Z4 GT3 V12, which was at the Tread Pass this year for a customer.
I read that is somehow a street legal car.
Yes.
How does that work?
I don't ask
Because
me, ask
Montana.
Sam.
I guess. I guess, but I don't even know if those GT3 cars have like VINs. They're sold on bill of sale. I don't even know how you would do
It's
that.
from Lithuania as well, that car originally.
Street legal, but in what country? Yeah, radicals are street legal too in like 3 places on Earth. Yeah, it looked cool as fuck.
Yeah.
Shout out to them. It looked cool as fuck.
It was the work that they put into that, though, will now help them finish this, right? Because they put a lot of development into it. But this, again, was also...
They put a V12 in this? Was that what it was?
Yeah,
was
this is out of a Mercedes.
The Mercedes V12.
Yeah, Mercedes V12, which is also...
He's got to fucking get into a fist fight with Horatio Pagani over these motors. Horatio's buying them all back.
I put them in touch with my friend at HWA. They build all Mercedes race cars. Gordian, he's kind of helping them build through this engine. But
with
they
the
build
ITBs.
all of the
It's pretty sweet.
AMG, GT3 track cars, everything like that. You know, we were rolling this car around Palm Springs. It was not fun. Like how we started this conversation, last year in LA, we had 8 running cars at SEMA, but people only focused on this one.
Yeah.
And the fact it wasn't running. I was like, that's fine. It wasn't being built for SEMA. It was being built anyway and just presented at SEMA. But we had 3 E36s that were just freshly finished, and we took them to the desert and did stupid shit with them. And we had a 2JZ E30 there as well, which is wild, insane. We had an E30 touring. It was just crazy. It was crazy. Like, there was a whole fleet of LTO cars rolling down the strip of Vegas. I'm like, damn, okay, people are making really cool shit with this. But it was just going from digital to, going from 2D to then 3D, then to real world.
Yeah.
Where I'm at now,
5D next.
Oh, God, 5D. No, thank you. My design philosophy, I think, has changed in its entirety. I last year designing the GL wagon for Travis Pastrana, for example. I personally really enjoy designing cars that perform and function, and that was one of the first projects where I could be like, I worked with the Subaru engineers on that car, like how the aero is going to work, how the car is going to drive, it's going to be doing this, like what can we do that, like problem solving. And it was my first kind of real project where I could be involved in a way where I'm not just doing a render or a design or taking someone else's design and visualizing it. It was like I did a series of 4 or 5 different variations of that, starting from your IMSA Group 5, like crazy style, to then whittling it down so that people could recognize the car, making sure that
Did you even seen a fucking Subaru GL before?
I didn't know what it was. Like, being in the UK, I'm like, what the fuck is this?
We have some shit boxes, but this is a shit box.
But it was a great project to work on. It was almost a redemption project for me from the F-150, because they came to me at such an early stage. I didn't feel like I did myself justice on that project. So I was like, I can use this as an opportunity now with everything that I know to actually create something that is a lot of fun. I remember I posted a black version of it. Oh, wait, did I post a black version of it? No. I posted a white version of it. And people were like, oh, like, I had no idea you designed this. And I was like, yeah, it was just a...
that car is highly functional.
Yeah.
I mean, and seems to stay together in one piece.
No, I mean,
it goes off jumps and doesn't fall apart.
I saw the Jim Carter video and I'm like, oh, how did you get away with that?
Yeah.
The jumps that Travis did and everything. And they must have liked it because, we're working on something. But I loved that. I loved working with Subaru's engineers and aero experts, and I love projects like that because I take so much away from it. I learn so much from it. And then
So do you now want to do active aero on other kits
just
for regular
everything,
cars?
just everything.
Everything
Active
needs to
aero,
move?
always, but I think everything needs to perform.
Yeah.
So that was my one takeaway within the last 2 years, is that having or creating body kits for stance cars is cool, but having them actually perform and get thrown around a corner and work is something
I've never seen a Fox
entirely
body with
different.
active aero. I'm just saying.
Okay.
I've not seen that before.
Put some actuators on there.
That-
Are you into
noted.
driving? Because I know you have some cars.
Yes.
But are you? It sounds like, based on what you're saying, that you came into all of this from the aesthetic side of things.
I did.
But then this education, makes you want to build things that perform and actually work. But
Yeah.
the whole time, were you a driving enthusiast? And you just weren't connecting those dots, or is it more like the work opportunities didn't present themselves to connect?
It's
those?
more the work opportunities didn't present themselves. My first car was an FDRX7, and I loved driving that everywhere. Like, it's a stupid car to have as your first car. Don't do it, but do it.
Do it.
And it changes the way you drive without you realizing it, especially if you're going straight in with a dream car that you really love, and is something dear to you. Like, you immediately, you're more focused on where you're going or who's next to you or who's near. But I love that car. I won't ever sell it. But in terms of the body kits, I was like, I want these cars to look like pieces of art. But it never connected for some reason. So why can't they look like art but also drive and perform like a race car, or like how they should be on the streets? And again, it's a style change. You look at all my artwork from the last 3 years. Every car was slammed. And I mean like stupid, silly, Busuzoku like styled camber, and it was ridiculous. And I don't know if it's just because I'm getting older or not. The more I go, I'm like, I much prefer...
Well, because the car doesn't even look like it could be driven.
No. The whole mindset is like, all cars are on air suspension.
Yeah.
But you look at, I can't remember which renders it is, but like having them at an actual drivable ride height, or if you can imagine them being static and being set up specifically to drive, not rub, there's a lot of enjoyment from that. I still love stancing race cars though, because that's just fun and people get really annoyed with it. So I'll never stop doing that. But
I like the light blue tinted carbon. That's pretty fun.
So kind of, I won't ever stop doing stuff like that. But if you look at like if you scroll down, I can't remember what I did recently.
I really like that little Peugeot. Is it a 206?
The little Peugeot.
Is that a 206 or a 106? I don't know my Peugeots.
It's a
something 06.
Isn't it? A 205.
205? I don't fuck
205 GTI.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
TEs look good on everything though.
TEs are good on everything.
Almost.
We
saw a 993 with one. Not so much.
Really?
Yeah, it didn't really work. We saw it at Luft. It didn't really work. It's the only car I've ever seen on TEs that I didn't think really worked.
I feel like the spoke is very...
The guy was a good sport about
it's
it,
like
though.
very
Shout out to
angular
him.
and straight.
Was it not concave or anything? Or?
911's very round.
It depends on your specs, though.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, it was my
depends on
fucking
your specs.
opinion, which is worth nothing. I don't give, you don't have to give a fuck about what I say. But
I mean,
the little K-van. Yeah.
Oh, Kevin.
Kevin?
From my night ride friends in
Yeah.
Poland. They are exceptional people.
Is that a real car?
Yes.
Oh, really? What's
Yeah.
going on with
There's a
it?
motorcycle in the back.
Yeah.
Is it a transporter? I can't see that. Oh, there's a
So
bike
it's
in the back
yeah,
of it. Oh,
so
cool.
it's a K-truck that they've put a bike. I don't know if it's a Hayabusa engine or not, but that thing is crazy cool.
Wait, does this bike roll out, or does the bike
No,
power
the bike
van?
is powering the van.
But it's in there. That's
The bike is powering the
that's
van.
way cooler. I thought it was a transporter.
No, so they have a big YouTube channel. They are the nicest people as well. Highly
really
recommend
funny.
you go check that out because it's awesome.
That's very funny.
But yeah, so it's kind of it's crazy. Design it's changed and developed, and it's now becoming a lot more real world focused. And alongside doing this as well, I've just started a studio as well called Fuse Studios with, two people that are very close to me. And we're working with a lot of OEMs like McLaren, Aston Martin. So that's kind of now becoming the day job that I love doing. And then you've also got, the real world car stuff, which is very much
LTO. I mean, is that a viable business? I mean, is it
LTO right now? We're just planning ahead. We're planning for the future, you know, like, because it will be a body kit company and a parts company. So it's getting that development in place, choosing which cars we want to make kits for, and seeing how it'll work in the future. Like, how sustainable will that be moving forward? Who can we work with? What cars do we want to create? So that's something I'm always kind of mulling over in the back of my mind. And we have some very exciting things planned for that, you know. But at the moment, it's difficult for me because there's essentially two brands there, and with me being an artist, I've never really, you know, I worked on Daniel Arsham's Nebula, his 928 design, which was wacky and weird. I was like, why didn't you design this yourself? But, you know, again, I guess he didn't want to. And I was like, okay, so he's an artist. He's known for this thing. I am known as Kyza. I'm an artist. I was like, I like the kind of separation there, as in there's a project I'm working on at the moment, which I feel adds a certain level of authenticity to where I want to be in the future. You know, it's I'm known for renders and for artwork, but also now slowly developing and evolving into real world projects and real world cars that are, you know, performance based and stuff like that. So it's quite a weird and exciting transition that I'm currently going through or dealing with, working with new companies and just trying to find my way in that and see what it becomes. But it's cool, you know, a lot of cars are being made real, a lot of designs are being made real. I'm meeting a lot more people, you know, and getting a lot more opportunities that I never expected I would have.
Yeah.
And it's just adapting to everything, you know, and dealing with the mental side of it as well, you know, like I'm one person. I have my friends, I have a great team of people behind me and a lot of support, but sometimes it can be a very overwhelming experience, you know, like meeting people is very socially heavy, it's very emotionally heavy.
Especially you can't SEMA for 8 days. That's because
you can't meet someone new and be like, oh, hey, you know, nice to meet you. You have to be upbeat, positive. That person is meeting you for the first time.
Right. Recommend cocaine.
You know?
Just kidding.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, sure. That's a great recommendation.
The English know about that one.
The English do know about
He's drawing so quickly. Doesn't make any sense, but he's drawing quickly. Yeah.
Exactly. But
no, I feel you.
There was a lot that I had to learn myself and learn how to manage stuff. And, you know, working at EA, it was a very stressful environment because I would do my work and then I'd do other jobs that weren't necessarily a part of my job description. It was, you know, I got a lot of anxiety from that. And it kind of affected me in a way I never expected. I got alopecia from that, from the stress.
Really?
And that, like, I lost a part of my eyebrow, my beard, my hair. I had patches in my hair. Now I'm still slowly recovering from it.
But fuck you up.
I had to shave my hair. You know, like every 2-3 weeks. It was a lot. And I think when you get to that stage where something is affecting you physically, you have to turn around and be like, okay, I need to change something here.
Yeah, stress turned my ass gray. I went from not so gray to gray in about three years. Yeah,
but that's what I mean, right? It's one of those things that you can't really control either.
Yeah.
So I had to get a grasp on that, and for me, that was leaving EA. And it was difficult, but I wouldn't look back.
Yeah.
Like working for yourself and working on projects that you want to work on, I think it's just so refreshing, and you are your own boss, and you know, you work on projects you want to work with and on, as opposed to you being told what to do.
Well, yeah, it's got to be nice to be someone who's your age and in the position to choose your own projects. That's nice.
You know, I'll be forever grateful to those experiences that I had, but I'm you know, I wouldn't be where I am now without them. But social media and following and everything, like I was 2 years ago, year and a half, I was creating artwork every day just for the sake of creating art. Not because I necessarily wanted to, but I'm like, I need to do this, otherwise everything I've done so far would have been for nothing. And when you get into that mindset, when you start working for companies, when you start working on, sponsors and whatnot, and they're looking at your engagement or how well a post is doing, that's all you start to worry about instead of the work that you're creating.
Yeah, welcome to our life.
Yeah.
That's exactly, you've just described
That's
our
where I
life.
was. Now I'm not, because it's not a good thing. So stop it. It's really difficult. It's really difficult.
Sure.
And it's taken me a lot to get out of that mind. Like, I don't need to create a new piece of artwork every week. All the years I've spent doing this it's built this following, and it's there. I can still focus and create what I want to create. I can still spend time creating what I want to create, and that's okay. I can post when I want to post something if I do, but I never set out to create to get a following. That just was a byproduct of the work that was being created.
It's a vacuum that sucks you in.
Exactly. When you start working for companies where they are looking at your engagement, they are looking at how well a post is doing, you can't do anything but worry.
Yeah. Well, we're ad driven. We're ad driven.
Exactly.
We when it comes to having people sitting in that seat you're sitting in, we used to. All that mattered was, do we like the person? And now it's, do we like the person? But also, is it gonna bring in, the numbers that we need to pay our bills? And same thing with choosing cars for videos that we're making. There's a lot of cars I'd love to drive, but no one gives a fuck.
So there's an interesting example of this, and so like this SEMA, for example, this year at SEMA, working with Khyzyl. For the first time ever, they were like, make whatever you like. And I'm like, that's awesome. What on earth do I do? So, Nissan very kindly gave me the Z performance. I'm like, oh, maybe I should just do something based off the Z because it follows the story nicely, And I got so creatively involved in it. I created my own gas station in 3D, and, I was really enthusiastic and motivated to do it, and it's literally a few posts down.
I didn't see the
so
there.
this one
it's
there.
That. So you created that image or series of images.
Yeah, so literally Khyzyl's bottle design was super cool. It's just got big bold logo of Khyzyl on the side of the bottle, and I was like, to Andrea, my contact there, is like, have you ever done a livery inspired by the bottle design? He's like, no. I'm like, okay, what do you think of this? He's
Flip
like,
through the images.
It's cool.
He's like,
use the wheel as the O.
He's like, we love it.
Ooh, that back end looks fucking cool. I like that.
It was a lot of fun to make.
Yeah, that's right.
So I was like, okay, I'm going to try this. And, I got really, when you're an artist and you really enjoy working on something, you want it to do well and perform, be happy with it. But I didn't really care about that for this piece. I just wanted to create something I really loved. I wanted to create imagery that I really loved and enjoyed.
That could be a real kit too.
Yeah,
it could be.
That's how I design these things.
If Nissan,
cool.
Let's see from this angle. You know what this looks like from this front high? It looks like one of those late 70s Greenwood Corvettes. Remember them?
Yeah.
Like those crazy IMSA Corvettes.
And that's my
that's what this looks like. Yeah.
That's where I draw a lot of my design inspiration from. IMSA, Trans Am, Group 5 racing, like all of those cars, even Group C.
Yeah.
Because they pushed the boundaries there for what those cars were performing to do. So to bring that back in a newer way, I'm all about it.
I like it.
But
that's fun.
This was really fun. This was really fun to work on.
Yeah, looks great.
It's projects like that I love to do.
You love a center exhaust.
Love a center exhaust. That's not a center exhaust though.
Is that a fuel filler?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Where is there? Is there?
There are double exhausts in the diffuser.
Oh, cool.
But yeah.
Oh, that angle too. Same. It looks like the C3 Corvette IMSA. Yeah. It looks fucking rad.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's cool. We got a few on the Patreon. We probably have more than we have time for, but we have 10 minutes of radio left to do. So let's get to them. If you want to ask questions, of course, patreon.com/The Smoking Tire Podcast. You also get an ad-free listening experience. You can get access to other special features and bonuses, etc., etc. Ivan says, what brand has made a car or concept where you looked at it and said, I would have done it the same? You ever look at a concept car and go, yep, no notes?
I think a good example of this is Hyundai.
Oh,
their latest
which is a dumb name, but it's a very cool car.
I've forgotten the name of it,
Yeah.
but that car,
74,
Yeah, 74N, I
something
think.
like that. Beautiful car, dumb name.
that car, when that launched, I got tagged in it so many times. They're like, have you had? I was like, no.
Envision 74.
It's like, I wish, but no. But that car is pure perfection
Yeah,
for me.
looks
Absolutely
great.
love it.
Giugiaro vibes.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
It's great. So that's what I would say.
Yeah. Tunehound says, I think this question is based in false premise, but I will read it anyway. What do you think about the state of car culture that people are willing to spend tens of thousands of dollars buying and fitting wide body kits that look cool but largely ruin performance and handling? I don't think that the term state of car culture implies that people haven't always done cosmetic mods.
You've seen it.
They always
Have,
have.
They absolutely have. Yeah.
Yeah, you look at
riders,
Japan back
Yeah.
in the 80s and
Fucking
70s,
George
you know.
Barris
Look
or
at Bosuzoku cars
Yeah.
or Shakotan
Yeah.
or anything like that. It's something, if an owner wants to do something to their car, I think they're going to do it.
I think there are people that are no less enthusiastic
It's
than the rest of
self-expression.
us who are expressing themselves through their car.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to, as long as they haven't made it literally unsafe to the
Yeah.
point where the
Yeah,
rest
yeah,
of us
yeah.
are in
No,
danger,
no.
whatever.
Exactly.
Michael Cosgrove says, what manufacturer would you most like to be invited to collaborate with for a special edition?
Ooh. That's a really difficult one. Oh man. Okay. That requires a lot of thought. But
DeLorean. Or DMC, rather.
I don't know. You saw Mazda's latest concept, right?
Yeah, it
for
looks
their
good.
RX-7
It's like
kind of revival.
Kind of
thing.
Miata, kind of RX-7.
Yeah,
thing.
I'd love to do that, and
Yeah.
I'd do my own version of that. That would be awesome. That'd be really cool.
You probably could. There's a lot of photos of the concept.
I already have, to be honest. We don't talk about that.
Okay, this is an interesting question. Sound Guy Under Duress says, how often do you think about the emotional content of design when working? Seems to me that lots of modern cars and modified cars reflect an ambient anxiety that permeates the culture. Interesting premise.
Very interesting premise.
Are you trying to say that we live in an overstimulated and stressful world right now? Because I agree.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
For me, it's more the emotion you go through when you're designing a certain piece of artwork. So my favorite, as I mentioned earlier, I headphones on. My design is very much swayed by the type of music I listen to, for example, or how I'm feeling at that time. If something super aggressive, I might have been slightly angry.
Yeah.
If something is kind of chill, I might have just been happy and just wanted to see something very simple. And it very much depends on the car and its purpose. For me personally.
Let's see. Derek says, my girlfriend has been making physical art with pen and pencil for years, but has been reluctant to use the iPad with paper simulating screen protector and stylus. What advice do you have for those looking to make the transition from physical to digital?
Throw yourself into it. Start sketching, start adapting the way you make art currently, just in digital form. It's not that different. You'll find it's a lot easier. Again, it's almost like what I said earlier about not wanting to learn 3D. You kind of have to start adapting the mentality of wanting to grow beyond what you know already, and always, learn new things and learn new tools. And you might be pleasantly surprised. Just throw yourself into it.
Evan says, as someone who has steered away from the automotive world professionally out of fear it could ruin the hobby, how have you preserved your love for cars when it is also your work? And what do you actively do to maintain that balance?
This falls back, I think, into just
Quitting
working.
EA.
Wow. Yeah. Working on cars that I enjoy personally. It might not be to everyone's taste, but if you're passionate about it, then it will always be something you're passionate about, you know. But pick and choose the jobs that you want to work on as well. If you don't like a particular car or you don't like a particular project, then you don't have to say yes to it.
A lot of people who work in cars don't necessarily have that luxury. Not that you haven't earned the luxury,
it's
but
true. But I think as well, if you're working in the automotive world professionally, it can just be something as simple as setting out some time for yourself to actually do the thing that you want to do for yourself. You know, like that's how I did it when I was working at the graphic design place. You know, like I hated that work. I started to hate that work. But even now with the OEM stuff, it's not something I'm entirely into. You know, I like the more custom kind of work that I do, but doing the personal projects that I do help and fuel me to do that job.
Let's see. Tyler says, what is the ugliest car of all time, and could you improve it while paying tribute to the original design?
Pontiac Aztek.
Oh, I was going to pull it up even if you didn't say it.
Yeah. I reckon I could do something fun with that.
You probably could.
Probably could.
Just draw a different car and then put
All
the
right,
badge on there.
future design there.
404 user not found says, what's the best looking normal car in your opinion? Best looking normal car.
What do you define as a normal car?
I mean, I think something that's not a supercar or
you know, like
I mean, you did a render of that Peugeot 205. I mean, that's a normal car.
I did, yeah.
It could be an enthusiast variant, I think.
Like a crossover under $60,000.
I might be really... Is it an old car or a new one?
I think it's a general question.
Okay, I'm going to be biased and just say the Mazda RX-7 FD.
Okay. That's a normal car.
Yeah. But if that's not what you meant, then I'd probably have to say... is it a Kia or is it a Hyundai? There's one that... No, okay. Polestar.
Oh.
But it's not a normal car, so I can't really say that.
Like the new concept-y one?
I was going to say the Precept, but that's not really a normal car, is it? I can't really say that. It's also not real. No. But their design language is great.
Your third answer will be Koenigsegg Gemera.
I mean, I think not that this question was for me, but like in terms of like intent of purpose and success at it, like Range Rover. Like that's a great looking. I mean, it's expensive, but the way they've evolved that design.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I love a Range Rover.
It could be said.
I do love a Range Rover.
It could be said.
Let's see. Track days are the best days. What decade has the best car design? I think you've already determined that it's 80s and early 90s, right?
For me, yeah.
Yeah, I think for me too. My purchasing choices reflect that. And last question, Anthony L says you have one car each to give Gale Banks, Steve Dinan, and John Hennessy. What are your choices? I'm giving Steve Dinan a BMW Z8 because. Do you know that Steve has built 2 variants where he put the actual Daytona prototype racing engine into a BMW Z8?
I did not know that, but that is phenomenal.
It is crazy.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Okay.
Well, Zach and I just drove the Hennessy Cadillac Blackwing 1,000 horsepower, and it was aggressive.
I met him at SEMA.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, at Shell, and he was just there. I was like, "Hey," he's like, "Massive fan, love your work."
Oh,
what?
Cool. You could probably do something with John.
Beg your pardon?
Yeah. John knows how to have a good time, that guy.
Insane. Wild.
Gale Banks.
I mean, I'd want to give him like a fan boat or something insane. Because he's done boat stuff. No.
Yeah.
I think like a Cummins swapped 67 Cadillac. And then have him turn it dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
I like. What you about to show me something?
No,
I would give John Hennessy a
Lotus
Elise because he would turn it into a Venom GT, and that was
a good.
That
car.
is the best tuner car of all time. The Venom GT was so legit. Did not get nearly enough credit.
Car, really, though. That's a super car. That's a
small but I mean, it's got a Lotus
super.
VIN number. Lotus doors, Lotus windshield.
Yeah. I'd kind of love to see what he would do with an FB RX-7, to be honest.
Oh.
But that's just me.
An FB RX-7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd
Twin
give-
turbo LS.
I'd
probably.
give Steve an E90 sedan.
Yeah. That 4.6 liter engine that they do is quite nice.
Yeah,
It's
expensive.
very good.
Yeah, I love those questions.
Yeah.
I was gonna kind of lead on to that kind of the little special thing. that
Okay,
I
well-
mentioned to you guys.
Yeah, well,
Given in the spirit of us discussing how the future looks like more cars that are related to performance and kind of just a different kind of experience and level. Are you guys familiar with a company called TWR?
yes,
Yeah.
Tom Walkinshaw Racing.
Yes, correct.
They built some awesome shit.
So I've been working with them basically in bringing in the new or next generation of what TWR means and kind of what's what's floating around, what's happening, and their kind of focus on the visceral and emotional side of driving. And I've been working on a project with them known as Project Gus.
Okay.
Mainly named after people working on the project that have Gus in their names.
Okay.
You have Fergus Walkinshaw, and Magnus Walker as well. This car is based on the XJS.
Okay. God damn it. We were just talking about XJS resto mods fucking 2 weeks ago with
Okay.
Johnny Lieberman.
But it was selected for a few reasons, but the link between obviously TWR and Jaguar
Yeah.
and the XJS. But I had a design brief that was, to create a vehicle free of OEM constraints, which is, I think, pretty much a dream.
Yeah.
And with TWR,
And with
Yeah,
people
so
who-
engineering wise,
they raced XJSs.
and they raced them well.
Yeah.
We watched
They
that
did.
clip from Bathurst. That was a TWR XJS.
But this car will basically retain its GT characteristics, and it will be far more track focused.
Okay.
And it's not an XJS that designers, engineers at that time would have done if they were making an XJS today. It's an XJS that we've designed and created in a way that we would like to own and drive it. And I'm very, very excited about it because it will be the first kind of ground up car that I've helped design and worked on that will be
$600,000.
that will be a production vehicle that will be sold worldwide.
Wow.
So kind of a little separate branch away from body kits and such, but it's like way out of my comfort zone. But I think it's going to be a very exciting project, which will be fully launched and announced next week.
Wow. Well, that's a hell of a fucking tease.
Which is cool. So.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
That's
man. Good for
ridiculous.
you.
Congratulations.
Thank
That's
you very
amazing.
much. Thank you.
We were just talking about
Thank
that.
you.
It's
It's
it cost
terrifying.
me a lot of goddamn money.
It's terrifying.
We'll
but-
have to stick to Fox bodies. I don't think I can swing a TWR.
Hey, you never
XJS.
know.
You never know what they'll
know. It might not be what you think.
Oh, well, it probably will.
Could be,
It might not be what-
A110, Could be 60 grand.
No, but they're an incredible group of people
Yeah.
to work with, and we're all
They
very
did XJR15.
We're all very
They
excited.
did XJ220.
Yeah, so
didn't
it's
they do
kind
the
of,
Selena S7 too, and then before
They've done
that-
Rovers. They've
they've
done
done
the
Masters,
Aston,
FBs, and stuff like that. But
Which one did they do with Ian?
Was it the 177? Oh, the
No, they like-
rebuilt Vanquish thing. Did they do
Yeah,
that?
they helped
Yeah.
they did the engineering for that before
Yeah.
it got
and
like,
also the Bathurst 1000, they won in the XJS.
a few
Yeah.
times.
But yeah, it's
Did
it's
they
like
do the
it's the next
the
step
Volvo
for
wagons
that.
too? Was that them? No.
don't
Who
think
did the
so.
Volvo
No.
wagons? The touring cars. I'm thinking of something else, but
The
Oh yeah, they did the
something.
DB7 V12 prototype,
oh yeah.
which then
There you
helped
go.
Right.
Aston say
Zach
we should
knows.
build this.
But
Well, that's
so
kick-ass,
that's
dude.
kind of next new step, which is a lot of fun and equally terrifying. But we're all looking forward to it. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Amazing. Well, thanks for coming down and
Thank you
visiting
for
us.
having me.
I might. I got to look at my schedule, but maybe I'll come up the mountain tomorrow.
Okay,
because,
cool.
it's-
I've never been before, so it's a fun
fantastic.
experience.
It's
Vin
fantastic.
was like, you have to go. And
Are you
have
driving
to,
something
you have to,
good?
I'm in the Z.
Oh, the Z. Yeah, you have a great time.
So
Yeah, you'll have a
Z's-
great time.
Z's going to be fun.
So I'll probably take either that motorcycle, which has active aero, or my Ferrari.
Make
which
sure you get
is
the
what?
right directions.
Yeah, I'm riding the Moto Guzzi Mandello, which is the
It
first
has active aero.
first new production motorcycle to ever have active aero. I'll show you outside. It's really cool.
please.
Yeah, it's really rad. I think I might buy one. It's a press bike, but I really want one.
That's crazy.
Yeah, go check out the Kyza on Instagram, of course, and where I guess you'll see that announcement all over the place for the
Yeah.
TWR thing soon. And congratulations,
Thank you so
You have
much.
been killing it.
Thank
and,
you.
You're a great follow on Instagram, and I love seeing these kits be made for real.
Thank you
Fox
very
Body
much.
next,
That's it, 2024.
2024.
If it doesn't happen,
If it doesn't happen, I'll come over to England and beat the shit out of you.
no, it'll be your fault.
Oh,
so
yeah,
technically, it'll be the other way around.
Oh, I have to
Yeah.
fund it. Okay,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Got it. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
there we go.
Thanks for your questions, everybody. Thank you to our patrons. Thanks to our
Thank you
listeners.
so much.
We will see you next week. Bye.